All right, welcome everybody to the Freak Show. I'm here with my beautiful wife, Jaclyn Thurmond. My name is Sam Thurmond, and today we are talking about self-worth and success, how belief shapes your future. And this is something that we have talked about numerous times. It's something that we focus on in our own lives because it is so important. How we value ourselves, how we see ourselves, how we talk to ourselves, and how that corresponds and relates to the reality that we experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you want to kick this off?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is a quote from, I believe, Henry Ford. And he said something to the effect of whether or not you believe you can is the truth.
You're right.
Yes. Whether
Yeah.
or not you believe you can, you're right.
Yeah.
Something along
Something like
those
that.
lines. So to me, and I did a lot of episodes on self-worth, guys. They're all in this feed. This podcast used to be called Self-Worth with Jaclyn Steele. You can go and see literally something like 160 episodes that are self-worth focused. So I understand the importance of self-worth, and I understand what it's like to struggle with self-worth. But what I have found is what we believe about ourselves is so powerful, like Henry Ford said. And then also what we think about ourselves is so powerful. I think that we are capable of retraining our neural pathways whenever we want. It's something called neuroplasticity. And we have so much power over our own self-worth. It's not something that is in anyone else's hands unless we actively give that power away or think it away.
Yeah, or just not actively have practices in place to where you're continuously making sure that
Cultivating.
yeah, exactly, that you're cultivating the picture of yourself that you desire. And that's super important. And we both have our own practices, whether it's journaling, meditating, those sorts of things, to where we're reinforcing the way we want to feel about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an exercise. It's just like working out. You have to do it day in and day out.
Mm-hmm.
And you know this, when I'm not doing that consistently, it has a major impact on me and my output, my creativity, and everything. So
And our
it's
relationship too.
yeah,
And vice versa.
yeah. I get
Same.
into modes a lot of times where I feel like I just need to grind and I need to put the hours in, and that's true. But oftentimes when I'm in that mode, I lose focus of the big picture,
Mm-hmm.
and it's important to come back to that regularly. So, how do you feel like low self worth holds us back financially, relationally, and personally?
I mean, there's just no doubt about it. It does. And I think that that can be seen throughout our culture every single day. You can walk into a coffee shop and by the facial expression on someone, and I'm not encouraging us to judge other people, but by someone's facial expression, you can kind of see what they're thinking about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Louise Hay also says that as we age, our faces take on the thoughts that we most commonly think,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that that's so true. If we are primarily negative as we age, our faces are more downturned. We have more frown lines, right? If we are primarily positive, that also reflects.
Yeah.
And so going back to your question, how low self-worth holds us back financially, relationally, and personally, when we do not love ourselves, when we do not think highly of ourselves, we bring that energy into everything we do. And so, for any of you who are listening right now who are struggling with self worth, I recommend that you go back and listen to some of my self worth episodes. But also, I want to tell you that you are worthy. And you don't have to believe me in this moment, but there is something unique and special and amazing about you. And look, I understand that people are born with differences, but my primary belief is that we're all a lot more alike than we are different. So if you see someone doing something really awesome, living the kind of life that you want to live, you are also capable of living that life and doing what they're doing. It might just take some mental changes that create action that then changes your reality, right? And we talk about this over and over in this podcast, and the frequency of belief. And the way that I have described the frequency of belief to people is know what you want or decide what you want, act on it, and then believe relentlessly that it is yours. If you want to change your self-worth, change what you believe about yourself. Change what you believe is possible, that you are capable of.
Yeah. So, real world example for me personally. So, on a daily basis, I'm having conversations with people in regard to, you know, 5 million, 20 million, 40, $50 million real estate deals with these commercial deals that I'm working with. And if I go into that conversation feeling like I'm not worthy to be in that room or worthy to have a educated conversation with these people that are doing these sorts of transactions and deals, it reflects in the conversation and it reflects in how they interact with me and how whether or not they're open to working with me or if they're closed off working with me. I can tell a huge difference. Like I talked to a guy earlier today who he has a RV park, marina, self-storage, all kind of rolled into this one huge, massive commercial property. And I was having the conversation with him, and he was taking me seriously, as he should, because I am bringing value to him. He wants to sell his property for $25 million. And I know that I am capable of going into my network and bringing that buyer to the table. But there have been other conversations that I've had where I went in not really feeling worthy of or confident in what I could bring to the table. And they would be smaller deals, $2-3 million deals. But if I went into that conversation lacking self-worth, it would fall apart because the person on the other end can feel that confidence or that lack of confidence. So it's a real thing. And every day when I sit down and I'm going to have these conversations with these people, I have to talk to myself and pump myself up and tell myself
get
that
your
I'm
mind
worthy,
right.
that I'm, that I'm bringing value to the table in this, and it makes all the difference.
And how many moments, those of you who are listening, how many moments have you experienced that have been serendipitous where you go, I really want to do X, and you start to think about that and put that energy out, and then all of a sudden somebody approaches you with an opportunity that is connected to that X idea. And then something happens. I remember in college, I think I've told this story on the podcast before, but I remember in college, my senior year of college, I was dating you. I hardly had any money for anything beyond like absolute necessity, right? And I said to myself, I really need a new sports bra. I have like 1 or 2 sports bras. They're getting super nasty. I need a new sports bra, but I don't have the 25 or 30 bucks like extra to spend on that right now. And within 24 to 48 hours, one of my closest friends, Nicole, came to me and she was like, hey, I got this sports bra recently and it doesn't fit me right. Do you want it? So that is a very specific example of how the power of thought and our willingness to believe that that thought is possible can create traction and create results very, very, very quickly.
You were worthy of that sports bra.
I was worthy of that sports bra. Yeah. And I think that's also important, before you go into a difficult conversation or a conversation where you feel intimidated, saying, I'm worthy. Tony Robbins says to literally put your hand on your chest and feel your heartbeat and get in sync with your heartbeat. Breathe in, breathe out as your heart is beating, and you'll feel a deeper connection to yourself and what you're capable of.
Yeah.
So I've done that trick many times too, when I'm like, whew, I am feeling nervous about this. I used to perform full time when I was a full time musician. I would pray before each performance, but I would also do those kinds of things too, where I would put my hand on my heart and just go, hey, this is going to be super fun. I'm going to enjoy every minute. I am not going to worry about what people think of me. I am just going to sing from the bottom of my heart because I love to sing.
Mm-hmm.
We can always reshape any moment into something that's really positive.
Yeah. So, yeah, step one is your worth has to be aligned with your goals. If you do not feel worthy of your goals, you're going to struggle to attain those. And that is the process. They say the journey is the reward, and I think that that's true, because what that journey does is it develops who you are until
Amen.
you are the person that is worthy of the goal that you are
And
pursuing.
that's kind of the whole point, right?
Yeah.
And I think a caveat to that is, if you don't feel worthy, the quote, competence breeds confidence. Even if you don't feel worthy, take the first step. Do something that is beyond your comfort zone. And the more you do that, the more competent you become in whatever field that is, the more confidence you will gain, the more self-worth you will feel. So it can be a baby step. It can be as little as dialing somebody up and saying, hey, I want to talk to you about this, or going to the gym, or I don't know, purchasing a class on social media because you want to learn how to create a marketing business. Take that first step, even if you don't feel worthy, and then watch how your competence breeds confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. It works both ways. Sometimes just taking action is the key, because a lot of times we don't know which way to go, but if we just take action, things will reveal themselves. And if you are putting yourself out there and taking a leap of faith and just saying, hey, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it, and you start taking action, it gets the ball rolling, and things start falling into place.
Paulo Coelho, the author of The Alchemist, says that when you decide what you want, the whole universe conspires on your behalf. But you have to decide what you want, and you have to start taking action. If you're only thinking about it, it doesn't work. You have to think about it, you have to take action on it, and you have to believe it's possible.
You're spitting quotes today.
They're just always swirling around in there.
So, okay, so we are connecting our worthiness to our frequency, or to your goal. And we've talked a little bit about how we embody our future self now.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
then,
like to think of that too as a person with an arrow. Like, whatever your goal is, you want to match that frequency. So take that energetic arrow and point it in the direction that you want to go and shoot it. And you may not hit the target the first try, but at least you're trying. And every time you try, you're going to get better and better and better and better.
yep. So step 3 is small daily proof points that build belief.
Well, I think we should talk a little bit more about how to embody your future self now. So you said connect worthiness to your frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just did the metaphor of the arrow. Even if you don't feel like you can connect your worthiness to that frequency yet, just take baby steps every single day. Start to retrain your mind. Louise Hay says that everything good in our personal healing, whether that's physical, mental, spiritual, it stems from self-love. If you start talking to yourself with love and start treating yourself with love, everything in your life will change.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. So step 2, let's talk about how to embody your future self now. We talked about this in the last podcast episode. Oh, can you tell I'm a mother of a 3-year-old? But one of my greatest spiritual teachers, Banya, told me this about 4 years ago. She was like, Jaclyn, whoever you want to be in 5 years, think about her. How does she talk to herself? How does she feel? How does she dress? And I started to describe that person. I started to picture her in my mind. And she stopped me and she goes, you can be that now. You can embody that now. You can begin any moment. and do that every single day. And that was such a profound statement. Like, we don't have to wait to become who we want to be. We can be that person now. We can start to embody that person now. We can think those thoughts. We can eat those foods. We can embody those habits right now. And that's very powerful.
So one thing that I do every morning is in my journal, I basically write out what's going to happen that day. And if you go to
I call it
if
future frequency
you go to
composing.
the first page of my journal, I wrote out my ideal day. So from the second I wake up all the way until I go to bed at night, I wrote out what my ideal day is. And so I look through that every morning, and then I go to the present day and write out how that day is going to play out. But what I found helpful was, and I told you about this, was after I'd written out my ideal day, I realized that I'm already living like 90% of that day. And so there are just little things here and there that I want to bring into reality. But what I can do is those things that I have control over, I can start doing them. Like I can do that in my day. I don't have to wait for that to happen.
No.
I can start putting those pieces in my day. And what I'm finding is the more that I do that, the more that I more or less force my day to align with my ideal day, the more other things start to fall into place. So like I start putting some pieces in there, and then some of the other pieces that maybe are somewhat beyond my control or that I can't make happen now, they start to kind of fall into place as well. So I think getting that clear picture of your definite aim, where you're going, how you want your reality to what you want that to look like. Getting that clear picture is so important. And then those little pieces of that you can do today, like you're saying, be that today. When you start plugging those in, it has a snowball effect.
Well, going back to the Paolo quote, once you decide what you want, the whole universe conspires on your behalf. And so as you start to take action, these serendipitous magical moments occur. Also, I call that future frequency composing, that journaling approach where you write out your future, you write out your day and how it's going to look, you write out your week and how it's going to look. You can write out your next 5 minutes and how you want them to look. I find it's a great reset button. And if you're interested in more on that, there is a calibration in the Freq App about it. I did a whole calibration on future frequency composing. I think it's called something about your future self. But if you are into these mindset shifts, just a plug for the Freq App, you really would enjoy interacting with it, because that's what the Freq App is all about. Taking you from one frequency and raising you to another.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So ready for step 3?
Ready for step 3.
Small daily proof points that build belief.
Beautiful. Yeah. What do you think are some small daily proof points that build belief? I can call one out right now.
Okay.
You were writing down what your ideal day looks like, and then writing down how you want your day to go, frequency-wise and otherwise and belief-wise. And then you realized 90% of my day is already exactly what I want. That is a proof point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another proof point, going back to the sports bra story. I said, hey, I've got to get this new sports bra. I don't have the money for it, but I just have a feeling something's going to work out. And then within 48 hours, I had a new sports bra.
Well, a good book that I think we both read a couple years ago, or maybe it was probably like 3 months ago, knowing how my
He's not
timeline
great with
recall
like
goes.
timelines. Yeah.
But was called The Gap and the Gain.
I never read that one. Nope.
Okay. So the whole premise of the book is, we tend to always be looking forward to how far we have to go versus how far we've come. So the whole concept of the book was, instead of always future tripping on how much has to happen in order to get to our ultimate goal, that we consistently stop and assess how far we've come. So if you're consistently taking time to evaluate all the things that you have accomplished, how far you have come, all the challenges that you've overcome, you start to build that appreciation,
Mm-hmm.
and that's that proof. Those are proof points as far as
Amen.
building on those and moving forward. And one, just building confidence and worth and knowing that you will get where you're going, um, because you've already gotten this far.
Yeah. Another like add on to that is you are allowed to be your biggest cheerleader. You are allowed to celebrate your wins. You're allowed to go, hey, I just got this monumental contract and I'm so proud of myself. I'm so proud of how far I've come in the last 3 months, in the last 6 months, in the last year. I'm so proud of the mom I'm becoming. Am I perfect? No. But do I love my son? And does my son know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I love him? Yes. And I can be so happy about that and so proud of myself. Even just small wins, as silly as this sounds, I'm celebrating my sourdough starter because I have tried to make a homemade starter. This is my third attempt since we got the flour mill, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the first two attempts failed. This one is working and I'm so excited. And the first two that failed, no big deal. Whatever. I've never done it before. I'm not going to expect perfection. But now on this third try, I'm like, I am patting myself on the back because it took a little bit to figure out. There was some science and some measuring involved. I think it's so important. Like, other people, most likely, unless they are very close to you and are very self aware and have the energy to give, they're not going to be your biggest cheerleader. You're allowed to be your own biggest cheerleader, and I would encourage you to do so. That will enhance your self worth. That will enhance those daily proof points that build self belief. Because when you call yourself out for the good things you're doing, not just the bad things, which most of us do, and I'm guilty of too. I've also done that this week. I had a flub with a dishwasher for a client. But when I focus on all of the amazing decisions I've made, like the 3,000 right decisions versus the one wrong one, and I was talking to my friend Luba about this too, I get to choose. Do I want to focus on the one wrong one or the like literal 3,000 right decisions that I made?
Mm-hmm.
I am retraining my brain now to think about all of the right, all of the wonderful decisions that I've made. Am I going to fix the wrong one? Absolutely. But am I going to dwell on that and beat myself up for the next 3 months? No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that embodies self-worth, uh, on a whole, is being your own cheerleader. High five.
Okay, well, let's just do a little bit of a review. So today we've talked about self-worth and success and how belief shapes your future. We talked about connecting your worthiness to your frequency and shooting that arrow to whatever frequency you want to live at. Name it, call it out, journal it, think about it, obsess over it, put it on note cards. You may not hit it today, but you will hit it if you keep focusing on it. You will reach that frequency, and the universe, God, we believe in Jesus, will assist you in getting there. It may be a process, it may take a little time, but you're going to get there. Okay, so that was one, connect your worthiness to your frequency. Two, how to embody your future self now. We talked about how we are allowed to be that person, think like that person, embody their habits, dress like that person now. We don't have to wait 5 years. We don't have to wait a year. We don't have to wait 6 months. We can start acting like that person now. Then step 3, small daily proof points that build belief. This is going to be the bedrock of your self-worth. If you want to go from 0 to 300 in a day, very hard to do. I'm not saying it's impossible. Nothing is impossible. But if you want to increase your self-worth, start with some self-love. Start by cheering yourself on. Start by stopping yourself in those negative thought loops where you're berating yourself or beating yourself up, and begin to shift those thoughts daily. If you want some help with that, again, the Freq App is amazing. You don't have to listen to us, but if you want to, we are there for you. We're a pocket best friend, right? But those daily proof points, those daily check-ins with yourself, that daily cheerleading yourself to go and be who you feel you are meant to be makes such a huge difference. Every single morning when we wake up, we have a decision. We can go back to our old way of doing things, whether or not that served us, or we can choose to become the person we know we're meant to be and take the steps forward in doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay. Our belief changes everything. Everything, 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 everything. Whether you believe it's possible or not is true.
Yep.
Okay. Question 2. Well, actually, one more note. Success is built at the intersection of belief and self-love. And that is just absolutely true. You have to believe you're worthy. You have to believe that what you want is possible. And then you have to treat yourself like the person who is worthy of that and who is loved up enough to embody that, right?
Yep.
Okay. So question for you today for the audience. I'm just going to go off the cuff here.
I have one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You go for it.
Surprise. So what I would say, or what I would suggest would be to ask yourself if your worthiness is aligned with your goals.
Okay. And then I'll ask a secondary one. And if it's not, what can you do to change that?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for listening. So much love to you guys. Live on purpose, live on frequency, and we will catch you in the next episode.
Thank you so much for listening to The Freq Show with Sam Thurmond and me, Jaclyn Steele Thurmond. We would love to connect with you via our website, beckonliving.com, and on social media.
You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Beck and Living, and you can join our email list to receive uplifting messages, podcast and business updates, and discounts on high-frequency products just for our freaky community.
Cheers to high-frequency living.